So, Dave, from positive education, right, I think we can now move on to the whole Daft Punk story, because this is a major story in the history of SOMA, right? Can you tell us the entire story?
Well, there's a massive connection to positive, as we've touched upon, because so Nicky Holloway from London organised this rave at Euro Disney, which ended up, for whatever reason, it was in a building next to the Euro Disney Hotel. But so we all, instead of going straight there, I don't know if anyone's been there, but it's it's an hour outside. Or two. It's an hour outside Paris. So a few of us, Darren Emerson, Stuart and Ord, me, Arden, who used to manage the Sandals, we all hit Paris a couple of days early. They DJ'd at the Queen Club, which was a big gay club in Paris that was into house and techno. And we got invited to this dinner through a journalist I knew, and he's like, there's a couple of boys want to meet you, And we met them. They were lovely. They were young. I mean, we as I said, I started when I was 20, so they were 19 and 20 at the time. And they weren't coming to the rave, the weekender to get. They were just like, they met us in Paris, we're talking away. But we'd made it a week-long holiday. So me, Stuart, and Mel were going to go back. I think Glenn and a few others were going to go back to Paris for a few days after. So we'd hit it hard in Paris, gone and hit it hard at the Euro Disney, and then we were going to go and chill in Paris for a couple of days. I mean, I can remember there was I don't think there was much even credit cards and shit at the time. I don't know but I can remember I had to say to the woman that worked with Nicky Holloway, we've ran out of money. And she gave us all the fucking coins that she'd all changed for the event. All we had was coins on us for the last couple of days. A couple of hundred fucking pounds worth of coins. So anyway, we made a point of, we'll phone Thomas. Mm-hmm. Thomas takes us round to his mum and dad's house. He's got his studio in the basement in his bedroom. They lived up Montmartre. His dad was a famous, well, not famous, but Daniel Vanguard, a disco producer who'd, unknown to me at the time, he'd made DISCO and Cuba, the Gibson Brothers Cuba, Ottawa and DISCO. He'd worked with Bob Marley. He's like, Bob Marley, they get stoned, turn up late. These studios cost money. What are they thinking? Yeah. But so we end up meeting Thomas, going down. He shows us his studio and he plays us these tracks, and we're like, fucking. He basically played the very first record is SOMA number 14, and it's called the New Wave EP. Yep. The track that ended up on Homework's called Alive. Yeah, that was the second track in the B-side.
Right. Okay.
So as he played those 4 tracks, that's how it appeared on the single.
Was he playing it live to use
No, sorry, he played us the song. They'd recorded them. Mm-hmm. So we get back to Glasgow and he sends us a cassette. I know he'd also sent the cassette to Warren Garnier because Laurent had the FCOM label, Fnac and then FCOM, but Thomas didn't want to be part of the French scene. His idea was, it'll look more international if it comes out on SOMA. So they came on holiday to Glasgow, stayed at the flat with me and Stuart. Well, first of all, we got the cassette. We agreed to put it out. We just became friends. They came over, stayed at the flat at Heinlein Road on the couch, on the floor, in the lounge. I can remember one night we all came back from the Arches and I had the brand new heavies in the kitchen, Daft Punk in the fucking... We were all partying in Stuart's bedroom.
That's a party.
Dave, you mentioned the cassette.
And they hooked up with the Desert Storm guys. They loved them. Ali and Jamie, Busy and Quanger.
The famous illegal raves, party crew.
Well, SOMA number 13 had been Desert Storm.
Yeah.
That had been the 12-inch before.
Dave, you mentioned the cassette, right? Do you have it on you?
I've got it on me. I never leaves the house.
I think everyone would like to see it, Dave.
Can you please show us the demo? Thank you.
Oh.
It'd be much appreciated. By the way, guys, Dave doesn't have this on him at all times, right? So if you see him in the street, I can't leave it in a pub. Don't jump him, by the way, right? So this is the first demo that Daft Punk gave SOMA.
SOMA.
My God, man. The New Wave Part 1, New Wave Part 2, Assault, and Alive. And this is, when was this given to you, Dave?
This was sent to us in 1994. 93, rather.
I'm kind of like, see, cause Daft Punk.
And look what else I've got. The Clash ticket from the gig me and Stuart went to that fateful evening when
Well, see, cause Daft Punk's literally my...
£3.50. Slightly more expensive these days.
See, cause Daft Punk's my kind of musical entry into kind of dance music, right? I'm kind of shaking a bit here seeing this. Oh! I'll pass this around, right? But this is like touching, like kind of holy grail
of history.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know the thing I love about it? The cassette inlay is a different make of cassette to the actual cassette. It's a total tape over.
I won't open it.
No, do it, mate.
No, I'm just going to breaking it.
You're not going to break it, but that sounds
I'm kind of shaking here, baby. Yeah. This is kind of. I mean, it is just a tape, right?
It's a bit of music biz history.
But that is. I mean, Daft Punk are the most greatest electronic dance act there's ever been.
I think they'll be looked at the way Kraftwerk are.
Dave, I think that should be in some sort of museum, but.
Well, we next year's going to be SOMA's 35th anniversary, and we're going to do an exhibition somewhere in Glasgow. We've got the drum machine that Richie and Jeff always played on. We've got the mixer that was in the Arches in the 90s. We've got various things that you can come in and touch, come in and play with. We've also got a recording of Daft Punk's first ever, second ever live gig on the Renfrew Ferry. And the idea is you can come in and listen to it. It'll never appear on the internet. It's 31 minutes long.
And he left the room, right?
Live 909.
I think he was kind of testing me to see if I was going to run out steal it and run out and jump out the window. But yeah, Dave, tell us, so you put out the New Wave?
We put out the New Wave. It did well, man. We did a couple of thousand copies. It was Do you know the thing about that Alive track, though? It was second track in the B-side. The other tracks were a bit more fast and frenzied. Stuart and Glenn loved them immediately, and Jim. But that track Alive, when we started doing the Slam Tent, which we haven't got anywhere close to yet, so many DJs dug that out and played it over the next 10 years. That was one of these hidden gems, It's like, so it did a couple of thousand copies on vinyl, which isn't massive, because when I was talking about all the distributors going, exporters, can I get more Positive Education? Positive Education ended up doing 25, 30,000 copies on vinyl as a 12-inch record, which means if you have a copy, it's not that rare. What you want is a record that only did 500 that everyone wants.
So, Dave, I think you should also now tell us, right, about the funky tune, right? Tell us about the funky tune.
We used to go to this, usually Jim and I guess because Jim had been a law student and I wasn't the musician one, we'd go to this thing called MEDEM in Cannes, which was it still goes on. It's a music conference where you meet all the distributors, exporters, people that, in those days, people before the digital revolution, people used to license your tracks if they'd been big 12 inches to put them on CDs. People would sell CD compilations all around Europe. So you might meet the Japanese guy. He wants to put the track on. And Thomas was like, look, I'll go with you. Fly into Paris and I'll drive down to Cannes. It's like about a 10-hour drive or something. So me and Jim fly to Paris, meet him and his dad. He drives us down to Cannes. His dad was amazing, though, because he'd always give us good advice. Mm-hmm. He was one of the original... he wasn't just a disco producer. He used to fight for the rights of songwriters. Yeah. He'd fight for the rights of artists. He'd disagree with all the collection societies in France. And he'd have a thing... He said to me, if you deal with a major label, don't look at the royalty they're offering you. Look at the deductions. Because basically, they could offer you 20%. But if it's got a 25% deduction, they're only really off, stuff like, it's not that interesting for the podcast. But Thomas actually knew more about the music industry than we did, therefore, because he'd grown up with this. Yeah. But we were all friends and fair people with one another. But we drive down loads. On the way back, we stop off again. So he starts playing us some tracks. And the second Daft Punk single was Daft Punk, Rolling and Scratching. Rolling and Scratching's, which is also on Homework, is quite a kind of techno, aggressive, gritty track. Yeah. So we're like, this is brilliant. And that the funk, you know, I don't know if it had a name. So we get back to Glasgow and then we get this tape sent over. It's still the old days, you know, probably still faxes and sort of stuff through the post. And we've got, people will know the other track because when we did a recent SOMA anniversary, the track's called Daft Drive. Yeah. Or Drive. So we get so Rolling and Scratching, we love it. The other track, we're like, that sounds like Rolling and Scratching, but maybe not as good. It's kind of drive. What happened to the funky one? I'm on the phone. What happened to the funky one? Thomas is like, I don't know, we're not sure. So he loves that story.
I mean, they weren't sure of it.
I don't know. I'm sure it would have, but you know, it was
it was quite different.
I remember that. I was
so Dave, so what you're basically saying is, right, that you picked up on this funky tune, right, that you
me and Jim
and they weren't too sure about it.
It was an unusual record, man. No one could mix it.
No, it was very different.
And that, when it came out, it was so slow. It was such a slow burner because it wasn't like you can mix it in on a house beat.
And that funky tune was the funk.
And it grew and it grew and it grew gradually. All of a sudden, I knew it was going to be a hit when Dimitri from Delight, you know, Delight, Groove is in the Heart, he was playing it. Richie Houghton sends me it. He's playing it. I'm like, Richie's playing it. Chemical Brothers, they were playing it. It was like...
Because then music by then, it had separated into genres by then. You know, there was techno and house, but there was different DJs playing that track. It kind of went commercial as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of people DJs are scared to do it as much now. Stop what you're playing and play something else.
Yeah, different BPM.
The other thing that used to happen, I mean, now usually when a DJ plays, there's almost like a stop and a start. DJs used to mix into one another and just hand the record back. Mm-hmm. There was a flow. People didn't used to look at the DJ. They would dance with each other. Yeah. That's what we should be doing more of, dancing with each other. Agree. If you see me at a club, sometimes I've got my back to the DJ. It's no disrespect to the DJ. It's just I'm dancing with my people and I want people to think the same. You don't have to look at the DJ when you're dancing. DJs don't want to be looked at. A lot of they didn't used to. Now they're like, I don't know what they're doing, hip hop hands.
So Dave, see when the funk really took off, can you just tell us? I mean, obviously, is it Virgin put out their album, their debut album for Homework, right? Which
it's quite a nice story, man. We started getting courted by all the kind of like island records. We're like, can you come and meet us? I mean, pretty much Richard Brown that worked with me at the time, we went to see all the cool, pretty cool labels that have done a lot of cool things. We kind of laid the groundwork for them. But as I've just mentioned, Thomas knew a lot more about the music industry than me, and he had his dad who didn't get involved in the business. But we'd also had this relationship with Virgin France. It was all the London labels that were getting in touch with us. It was hyping in the UK, I booked them a little tour around my little formerly Balearic network. So they played it Back to Basics. They played at the Heavenly Social in Nottingham or London. They played. I mean, they even played at. I think they played at Kelvin Andrews for Keele University. Yeah. So they did this little tour which culminated in the Renfrew Ferry, which is the gig that when we do the SOMA 35 exhibition, you'll get to hear. I'll dig out the flyer for that and people can see that. But so they kind of got this massive buzz in the UK. Virgin France had, for a few years, there was a lovely woman called Maya Massibouf, used to smoke like a chimney. We all used to smoke in the office. We were terribly unhealthy, but it was like what's that program? Mad Men. It was like, you know.
Everyone drinking and smoking.
But so they'd been putting out SOMA tracks on compilations, and that was obviously in Paris where they could go. And so Daft Punk actually designed it. I'll get to this. They were happy working with them eventually, Virgin France. But because of the knowledge, like pretty much every major artist up to the point Daft Punk did their major deal used to sign to a major, give their lifetime rights away to that bit of music. Mm-hmm. That major company would then bankroll them, but all they were doing was lending the money to pay for the videos and the tours, and then they would take the money back and pay them the royalty. What Daft Punk said was, we just want enough money, so we don't need money to live. They didn't have expensive habits. They wore the same pair of jeans, still don't own a car, travel on the fucking metro in Paris, even now. Wow. So they just wanted to own their material. So they paid for all the videos. See that video with the dog that Spike Jonze directed? All those videos, they paid for that out of their advance.
That's incredible.
But they also had a deal with Virgin where they got all their rights back after 5 years. So they own all their music. Yeah. We did a beautiful thing with them. I met the lawyer in London. They had this show. He actually said to me afterwards he'd never seen a more honourable deal in the music industry in his whole life.
That's saying something.
So we actually didn't have a contract.
It's not, no.
No, but we fucking knew each other and we had made an agreement.
Like Factory Records.
It was a handshake.
Yeah. That's great.
So we had this arrangement where we helped them. They helped us back. The riches, we didn't get involved in their future career. They made sure we got a bung for all the stuff we'd done.
Yeah, of course.
And it was just very fair. And as I say, the word that doesn't appear in the music industry annals that often, honour was involved. Yeah. And friendship, which is still there to this day.
Yeah, fantastic.